name is Cris Araujo, and I'm a costume designer.
Awesome, and I absolutely love costumes. Some questions for you here. What is your initial approach with a new project? Well, let me introduce myself first. I'm married lesbian, which viewed and reviewed out of Phoenix also. So this is my daughter, Sarah.
Hello, good to meet you.
What is your initial approach with a new project? Is it different with every project? Is it pretty much the same, or what do you do to prepare?
I think every project is very similar on how I approach. I mean, the whole thing is like reading the script and breaking down the scripts with my ideas. The same way you read a book and if I asked you can describe that character, is what I'm trying to do. Because I will read the script before I meet with directors and producers to get hired to the project. So I got to introduce my ideas and a different perspective different than their perspective, and how I want to tell the story through costumes, which is an interesting thing because we all wear clothes, so we all think of them as a very simple thing. But in a movie, you can see Tom Cruise in a movie wearing jeans and a t-shirt, but because of aging, because of the differences within his wardrobe, you can kind of tell what part of the movie he is and how he's feeling, solely because of hair, makeup, and wardrobe. So that's basically what we're trying to introduce there. Where there's flow, where there's break, where there's trauma, and it sounds very deep to show that through clothing, but all of us do at the same time. You know, we either hide too much or we show too much, and all of those things represents what's going on within.
What is your favorite part of the design process?
I think my favorite part, well, there's a couple different parts, but my favorite part is the illustration. When I usually work with an illustrator to bring a character to life. And that's just sort of like, that's the main part. So then you can see on paper what that person is going to look like. And sometimes in a contemporary movie, you won't see it as much, but that's combined with working with an actor. Because you have a phone call with an actor and you talk about how do you feel the character feels. Because everything that you're going to put on them is going to help them act. Is going to help them become that. You know, I worked on this movie, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Rooney. As soon as our main actor Rooney would put her boots, she would transform. And I think that's the whole. That's like I think the beauty of the process, the magical part of the process. So I think those are the two parts that I like the most.
How did you get started doing this?
I started quite a while ago, about 20 years ago. I started as a production assistant in an independent movie in costumes, and then I just kind of grew from there. And I have somewhat of an eclectic background. I worked as an assistant in independent movies. Then I moved to commercials. I did a little bit of fashion. And now I still do commercials and movies as a costume designer.
Was this something that when you were a child that you always liked doing? Did you like the costume aspect of life? The clothing aspect?
I never thought of it that way. I think I didn't even know this type of work existed, right? Because we watch the movies and we think it's just there. We think it's just maybe the actors just came from home wearing that jumpsuit. And then we realize it's not true. So I've always loved expressing myself through clothes. And I think that was like the first step into getting into this. And I think it's the main aspect of most people. You know, I think it's just, but you have to like to get deeper into it. Not just you love to shop, because most people like to shop because it feels good. But it's, you know, then you have to dress a grandma. And then that's not necessarily what you love to shop for. But creating that character fulfills something within you because you can kind of express your creativity through her. Through becoming, you know, a regular older lady will wear regular clothes, but then to make her a real character, you have to dig deeper and, you know, introduce layers and things. Maybe she made this crocheted scarf or whatever it is within her. So I think that's what's really interesting about the whole process.
So, do you work on Uglies?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that's set in the future.
Yes.
How do you figure out, okay, what are they wearing in the future? I mean, because you can't have a lip like you're wearing now.
Right.
But, back in the 60s when I was growing up, the future was all the silver and all that kind of stuff. So how do you envision, how do you come to the vision of the future, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, and I think, when you just think of the vision of the future, it can get pretty overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And you have so many references, and if you notice in a lot of movies, they will look into the past to look at the future, so that's why a lot of futuristic things look somewhat like the 60s future. But what I was trying to do with this one is trying to introduce technology into it. So, I don't know, earlier on in the 80s, we didn't have like the dry fit technology that Nike introduced, and now we do. So I try to introduce something through fabrics. How can we think what our fabrics are going to be doing 300 years from now? And that's why, like in Uglies, for example, we had this one hoverboard suit that everything was one size, but it expanded so anybody could wear it. It's similar to Back to the Future. So it's trying to touch those little things, but also introducing the architectural looks, the things that look very avant-garde that you would think people wouldn't wear now, but maybe they wear then. Mm-hmm. But it's trying to tell the story as well. And at the end of the day, humans still have legs and arms, so they still have a similar silhouette. But it's trying to introduce what aspects of this can help me tell the story.
What have been some of your favorite projects
that I've worked on? I think Uglies is one of my favorites. I also was key costumer on Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and that was really fun. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is wonderful. And honestly, some commercial work that I've done that's been really in depth and really into costumes. I've done quite a few video game commercials. I did PUBG and Ebony, and those were really cool because we built full armies just for this 30 to 60 second spot. Yeah.
That is nice. Yeah, like I said, I am a huge costume fan. So, is there anything you would like to ask?
Did you? I mean, Uglies obviously is from a book, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you adapt from did you look at the book to see this is kind of the vibe that they're giving, but how do I bring it to life in our own way to convey the story?
Yeah. The interesting thing is Scott Weiserfeld, who wrote the books, he throws in a couple of specific things, but he wasn't ultra descriptive of the costumes, which was nice because that kind of allowed me to expand along with McG and just create something that was our own. The story of the film, it's pretty much the story of the book with some minor changes here and there. So I think what we're trying to do is really connect to what he was trying to say, So the Uglies uniforms, and it's interesting because when you start watching it, the Uglies uniforms, they're meant to strip them away of their individuality. They're kind of boring in a way. And then as soon as you get to the Smokies in the movie comes alive. And and I've heard some comments, and people are like, "Oh yeah, because we went from a set to nature," and I was like, "That's not it. It's because you went from one mindset to the other, where people are connected with themselves and connected to nature." So that was really fun in the wardrobe because you could do the leathers and the little objects they found along their journeys, and they attached to their clothes, and I think that was really fun. And then in the pretties, another aspect was the way he described. The writer's very descriptive of their faces and how they look, but not necessarily of their clothes, which to me has always been the avant-garde, Met Gala and beyond, sort of but it's unfair almost to compare it to the Met Gala, because Met Gala are pure walking pieces of art. And what we're trying to show here is this architectural cool looks, but we're trying to show the sterile of their lack of personality, their lack of connection to themselves and their eagerness to crave external validation. So, thank you so much. Thank you.
I would love to have a job like this.
I'll bring you on the hardest day. You won't be so jealous.
Now.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.